pleasure receiving you, and I'm told just like your dad, you gave a stern speech and you did so extemporaneously. I'm also told that you're 94 years of age?
Well, not quite.
Almost.
You're moving me up a little bit. I'm much younger than that. I'm only 92.
Oh, well, then not far off. There you go. Well, you look extremely well.
Thank you.
Evidently, you inherited good genes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we are certainly very happy to have you here, and I thank you for educating our people on the work of your late dad. Let me apologize. I had so many activities yesterday, including a social event. And the night before, I was actually, on Wednesday, I was in Grenada. So my apologies for missing the watch night. But again, was just involved in a lot of different activities.
Well, your comments were well received, at least by me, because it filled in a good part of our story in terms of, fighting against colonialism.
Yes.
We were talking about fighting against slavery, of course.
Right.
Emancipation Day, but then we fought against colonialism.
Exactly.
And, of the labor movements, etc., unrest in the 30s. And the 40s, the trade union movement, which you mentioned, that's what propelled us towards independence. So
that's right.
We appreciate
your dad was instrumental. I mean, that famous engagement at the Anglican schoolroom in Long Street. In fact, Ambassador David Ahmad has recommended that we rename the street Marcus Garvey Drive, and I can tell you that in principle, there's an agreement, but what the cabinet has asked is that we do some further research, not only on your late father, the most honorable Marcus Garvey, but on two other Antiguans who would have served with him. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the names George Maguire and George Weston.
Yes. He was the
chaplain general
of the African Orthodox Church.
Yes, and the chaplain general of the movement.
Yes.
Which tells me that he would have served very closely with Marcus.
Yes,
he was
they had their disagreements. I don't know if you know that.
Well,
because
I would be surprised if they didn't.
While he was the chaplain general, he wanted to make the African Orthodox Church the church of the organization itself, the UNIACL. And of course, my father felt that it should not be specifically a religious movement. Because if you have one religion, then you exclude the other religions.
Precisely.
Everybody has a different religion. So he did not want to have an official religion in terms of the UNIA. So they had their disagreements, but I think they patched it up, so to speak.
Fair enough. And I noticed Maguire never responded to anything that Marcus said. Marcus was like me, very outspoken. Maybe we came from a similar place, from the motherland. But what I find quite interesting, is that the kind of courage that he had at that time during Jim Crow and so on, lynching people, and he was not afraid. In fact, even Maguire, I'm told at the time, was telling his congregation that God was a black man, or he's a black man for that matter.
Yes.
Can you imagine that? Back then with Jim Crow?
Yes.
And your dad as well, leading a global black movement and calling for the repatriation of Africa for the Africans. And I would have followed to his impact on the Rastafarian movement.
Yes.
I call myself Gassy Dread Congo Bongo, So I'm kind of socialized as a Rasta, though I don't have any locks.
Yes, a bald-head Rasta.
Well, there's an
not quite, but close.
There's an artist, Morgan Heritage, who says that you don't have to be dread to be Rasta, but for me, Rastafari, in its pure form, is about living good, is about love, unity, justice, and so on.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I think the religion is corrupted to some extent. It's not properly documented, so a lot of work needs to be done. But inspired by your dad and Haile Selassie and so on. But I think that Marcus's contribution towards our independence was significant, and even towards our black consciousness and helping to build black pride. I mean, most people, for example, back then who came to slavery and colonialism, there was no value in their lives, and here's a situation which your dad was saying to them, back then, over 100 years ago. Look, man, we are kings and queens,
Well, they were
I don't know.
disconnected from our ancestry.
But I'm curious.
We're uneducated and miseducated.
Exactly. But where he got that kind of insight, because I don't know, he was not university trained or anything of that nature. Where he got those insights, I'm curious.
Self-development. He read
Read a lot.
Yes, extensively. Yes.
Travel too.
Travel.
Latin
Yes.
America.
Yes.
As a young man, he left Jamaica.
Went to Costa Rica. Went to Panama.
When he was exposed to those conditions.
Another astonishing thing too, though it failed, was a black Starliner in which he had pursued entrepreneurship, and I'm an individual as a leader who continues to push the issue of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there are people up to this day, they're extremely risk averse. And I don't know if you were socialized to think that wealth accumulation is evil, but I know poverty is the ultimate evil. So your dad at the time, tried to establish this liner to move people, obviously move goods as well. The irony about it, we're still in the Caribbean struggling now to get a couple of ships to move goods and to move people 100 or something years later.
Yes.
But at least he achieved, at least, how many ships he got, 1 or 2?
No, I think there were about 4
4 ships?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So,
not all at the same time.
Even though he couldn't sustain it or didn't sustain it.
Well, of course, it was sabotage.
Well, there you go. But at least he achieved it. We are still struggling with more resources, better educated people. It's still an ambition for us. We're working towards it. I think we're a little closer now to establish a shipping line, a Caribbean shipping line to move goods and people within the region.
That's important.
But again, it speaks to the courage and the foresight, the insights of your late dad, and it was an inspiration for all of us. Now, you would know that he addressed the Antiguans back in 1937 on November 1st. And that is why we celebrate our Independence Day on November 1st.
We were talking about the question of its actual documentation. We know it as oral history in all probability.
Yes.
That.
Well, I hope it's correct.
Yes, I'm inclined to believe it myself.
Well, sometimes people stretch history, so if there's a stretch, we still accept it.
Yes.
But I'm told that Sevilla would have chosen that date because that was the day ostensibly that he would have addressed people like Sevilla and other union leaders who, they became union leaders a couple of years later after Walter Citrine would have addressed them. But he would have set the foundation for the consciousness at the time.
Yes.
And in fact, I had a grandfather and a great uncle who actually served at the time too. And my understanding, they're also part of that meeting. So it seems as though the schoolroom was actually filled with the creme de la creme of Antiguans, who wanted to serve and had some level of consciousness. And Sevilla was certainly one of them. So I just want to thank you and certainly your family for the work of the late Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you for the work that you do for Antigua and for the Caribbean. Yes.
Well, we're trying, and we are certainly continuing his tradition. It's about empowering our people and bringing them prosperity.
Yes.
We also trying, or let's say, continuing his tradition to try and bring Africa and the Caribbean closer.
Yes.
It's slow progress, but we're making progress. And just like him, we've gotten burned too. I'll give you a typical example. About 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we established an airline, chartered a plane to move people between Lagos and Antigua and Barbuda. First flight was actually done on Independence Day in 2022. Went very well.
Was that Earpiece?
No, that we subsequently...
because they did that to Montego Bay in Lagos about 3 years ago too.
Well, interestingly, that relationship with Earpiece was established by Antigua. But what had happened, that flight that was intended for Antigua could not land there because at the time the air services agreement were not signed. So that's how it ended up in Jamaica. Fortuitously. But it was really negotiated to be a flight to come to Antigua. The second one was Antigua. And we also have a relationship with Earpiece in that they're partnering with us with our local airline, our regional airline for that matter, Liat. They own the majority shares and we have a minority position. The airline had failed during COVID. So we invited the principals of earpiece to take an equity stake, which they did. And we hope to have scheduled flights from the first, I'd say probably the first quarter of next year, directly out of Lagos using earpiece, because the subsequent...
to Antigua.
Yeah. The subsequent flight that they did from Lagos to Antigua earpiece went very well. But the charter service that we had, we had two flights really. In fact, there was another charter that had nothing to do with us that opportunistically brought in some conflict migrants from Cameroon, but they boarded in Nigeria, in Lagos. So we found ourselves on the heels of the 2023 elections, literally within a matter of a month. We found ourselves with about, about 600 plus conflict migrants.
Wow.
And, in fact, they were literally pulling their little bags in the street and so on. We thought they were coming as tourists. So we're quite happy, when we saw the APS plane filled with Africans. The tickets were pretty expensive, like about 4,000 US plus. So when someone can afford a ticket of 4,000 US, you think that they have money.
Yes.
But we learned subsequently in Africa, normally when they try to leave Africa, family members will put up their entire savings and so on to get them out, and that's exactly what happened. They were wealthy. And what seemed to have happened, the first flight that came, a few of them came as runners, recognizing too that we had waived the visa requirements to facilitate ease of travel. So we ended up with 600 of them, 600 plus. And when we recognized what was happening, we had to cancel the charter because we couldn't allow them to flood the place. But the irony about it is that we offered them to stay. We said, look, we'll assimilate you into domestic society because they didn't want to go back to Africa. In fact, they made the case too that they're conflict refugees, and if we send them back, we'll be sending them back to their death because of the conflict in Cameroon. So we offered to assimilate them into society. They could live, they could work. They told us, no, we're not interested, we want to go to the United States. We brought in the IOM, we brought in UNHCR, and they told officials, sorry, we're not staying here, we're going to the United States. And they smuggled out of the country systematically to the extent that one of the ships to the U.S. Virgin Islands, the boat capsized, and 13 of them lost their lives. So I'm saying that to say that, as they say, I guess the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So here's the situation, and I'm very passionate about linking Africa and the Caribbean up to this day, and I'm not relenting. But I can understand how your late dad would have encountered some pitfalls.
Absolutely.
Because here's a situation in which, we are very proud about creating that linkage. One of the smallest countries within the Caribbean region, taking that bold initiative to start this charter, have good load factors. Profitability was not an issue. But there came these conflict migrants and just mess up everything. In any case, we continued with APIS. APIS brought in a subsequent charter with a lot of people. That went very well. And we're now working towards creating scheduled flights.
Good.
Yeah. Beautiful. So again, it's Antigua that is actually leading that connectivity between Africa and the Caribbean. And again, following the tradition of your father.
So how do you plan to disperse from Antigua to the rest of the Caribbean? It's a non-stop to Antigua, or it stops in Jamaica?
Liat has non-stop flights to Montego Bay now.
Okay.
So APs will bring the people here, and then Liat will take them throughout the Caribbean, as far north as Jamaica, and as far south as Guyana. And already there's a partnership there. APs owns the majority shares in Liat. So the infrastructure is in place to facilitate it. And again, inspired by your late dad, if we can't move people between Africa and the Caribbean, then evidently we'll not be able to strengthen the relationship.
Of course, in terms of trade and commerce.
Precisely.
Yes,
or even people-to-people and engagement.
And tourism, of course,
exactly.
yes, as well.
That's right. Yeah, so, we hold your late dad in high esteem, and certainly you, of course, continue his tradition.
Well, I see you're continuing the legacy and the work yourself, sir.
Well, we are trying. And again, I can empathize with your dad, because I didn't give you the other part of the story. I got ridiculed in this country. I was called a smuggler, a thief, a crook. You understand?
Yes.
And nobody stopped to think that, look, if this happened a matter of weeks before the elections, who would want to risk undermine their chances of being re-elected.
Yes, yes.
And when you hear the opposition exploited it,
Yeah,
they said we brought them into
imagine.
they said we brought them into vote knowing that they could not vote.
Oh, wow.
Because the process is so onerous
Yes.
to register people, and you have claims and objections and so on. It could not have happened. But people bought into the rhetoric, and we almost paid a political price. We won the last elections by 1 seat, and we lost. Well, we won one of the seats by 6 votes.
Ah.
And that was one of the issues that really undermined our prospects in the last election.
Yes, yes.
Then we had issues of COVID, we had issues of high inflation. It was a perfect storm. Yeah. And we added to it inadvertently. Yeah.
Well, now you know the true meaning of no good deed goes unpunished.
Unpunished. By the way, that's one of my favorite sayings. And with that experience,
Yes.
I actually said the same thing.
Yes, yes.
No, Max, you've heard me say so all the time. Yeah? No good deed goes unpunished. I mean, here's a situation in which, and by the way, you know, we brought the people up to date every step of the way with the charter. In fact, the initial condemnation was it cannot be achieved. We achieved it. First flight came, everything went well. By the second one, mayhem, a lot of conflict, migrants. So I can understand, you know, with your
Absolutely.
late dad that
absolutely.
he had an excellent idea. But as I said, we had the saboteurs as well, yeah, and they undermined the process. But at the end of the day, he has left a great legacy. In fact, I think Marcus is easily one of the greatest black men to have graced the face of the earth.
Yes, I agree with you.
So,
wholeheartedly. Thank you for saying
you should
that.
be
Yes.
very happy about that legacy.
Yes,
Yeah.
quite.
I hope you're looking forward to the Ethiopia meeting.
Yeah. And we're going hard on transportation.
Okay, thinking of a charter.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to discuss that with the APs about providing a charter. But I'm of the view that the countries must now come together and even provide some seed money to subsidize a charter in the interim until it's fully established. And I think it can be shared among the Caribbean and African countries. We have to do, it's a low-hanging fruit that we can achieve. And, you know, I will invoke the efforts of Marcus Garvey. I mean, novel idea is not a new idea. Even though he failed with sabotage, we must make it happen now. This is 21st century. Yeah. So we'll be pushing pretty hard for that. Yeah. Good. Well, certainly a pleasure, Excellency.
Well, thank you for
I hope
having
you
me, sir.
enjoy the rest of your trip here. A pleasure.
Wonderful to
Well,
be here.
you know, if I get to the 90s, tell you, I want my mind to be sharp.
I'll tell you my secret.
Well, you have to. Even tell me I have a young wife, then.
You know the secret already.
Well, it's all for me. Certainly a pleasure. Blessings again.
Thank you.
Noreen, thanks
so much.
for the
Thanks
visit.
so much.
We'll be in touch. Good.